Walton Goggins just posted 3 photos on Instagram. No trailer, no teaser music, just 3 photos. And within an hour, they had more engagement than most shows get for an entire season announcement. That is the power Fallout has right now. And today we're going to dig into exactly what those photos tell us, what we know about who is joining the cast, and why the timeline for this season matters more than people realize. I'm going to treat this less like a news recap and more like an investigation, because there is a pattern hiding in these casting announcements, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Let us get into it. On June 8th, Walton Goggins shared a set of images on Instagram with the caption, "Back in the saddle, Fallout Season 3. Simple. No exclamation points. Just a guy going back to work." The images themselves are worth slowing down on, because Fallout is a show that treats costume and makeup as storytelling, not decoration. One shot shows Goggins in the makeup chair, mid-transformation into the Ghoul. Another shows the boots. Weathered, Western cut, the kind of footwear that has clearly walked across 200 years of irradiated desert. And the third is the scorpion belt buckle, which by now is basically the character's signature the same way a cowboy hat identifies a gunslinger in an old Western. None of these images reveal plot. That is deliberate, but they confirm something bigger than plot. Production has officially begun. And for a show that takes roughly a year between the start of filming and the season actually airing, that single detail lets us start doing some math later in this video that if you need a refresher, here is the short version. The Ghoul, formerly known as Western movie star Cooper Howard, has spent 2 centuries wandering the wasteland with one real motivation underneath all the bounty hunting and gunslinging: finding his wife Barb and his daughter Janie. Season 2 ends with what might be the most quietly devastating scene in the entire series. He finally locates the vault where his family was supposed to be preserved in cryostasis. He gets inside, and the pods are empty. No bodies, no bones, nothing. For a character who has been driven by grief and denial for 200 years, that emptiness hits different than a death would. A death is an ending. An empty pod is a question mark, and the show clearly wants to keep that question mark hanging over him going into Season 3. But the writers do not leave him with nothing. He finds a postcard from Barb. It reads, quote, "Colorado was a good idea." That is it. 6 words, and suddenly the entire next season has a direction. So when the cameras start rolling again, expect the Ghoul to be somewhere in the Rocky Mountains, following a 200-year-old trail that is either about to give him answers or about to break him completely. Here's where this gets genuinely interesting, and where I want to slow down, because most coverage of this casting news buried the most important detail. Deadline confirmed in May that Aaron Paul is joining Fallout Season 3 as a series regular. Now on the surface, that is just exciting casting. Breaking Bad legend joins prestige streaming show. Cool, moving on. But look at the pattern. Aaron Paul worked with Fallout's executive producers Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy before on HBO's Westworld. And when did he join that show? Season 3. Not Season 1. Not Season 2. Season 3, playing a character named Caleb Nichols who became central to the entire back half of that series. He also joined Amazon's Invincible in its 3rd season. That is 3 separate Nolan and Joy adjacent or animated prestige productions, where Aaron Paul specifically arrives in Season 3, not earlier. That is not a coincidence you can wave away. That looks like a working relationship where certain creators wait for the right character to bring their friend in, rather than casting him just to have a big name on the poster. Which raises the real question. Who is he playing? Nobody has confirmed it. But given the Westworld precedent, do not be surprised if Paul's character turns out to be someone with real narrative weight, not just a guest star cameo. There's also a fun bit of trivia buried in his history with this franchise. Paul attended a Fallout New Vegas launch event back in 2010, 16 years before this casting news. He has apparently been orbiting this universe for a very long time before finally stepping into it. Aaron Paul was not the only major addition. In June, Deadline reported 3 more names joining Season 3 in recurring roles. Manny Jacinto, known for The Acolyte and The Good Place. Emily Mortimer, known for The Newsroom and Paddington in Peru. And Thomasin McKenzie, known for Jojo Rabbit and Last Night in Soho. All three roles are currently being kept secret, and that secrecy is worth paying attention to, because Fallout has a track record of using surprise casting for major faction reveals rather than throwaway characters. Remember, this is a show that cast Macaulay Culkin as a wasteland cult leader and made it work. Here is where I want to offer some analysis rather than just repeating the press release. Season 2 ended with New Vegas positioned as the center of a coming war between the Brotherhood of Steel and Caesar's Legion. That is a massive amount of new territory and new factions for a show that, so far, has mostly kept its cast orbiting Vault 33, the Brotherhood, and the NCR.3 recurring roles arriving at exactly this narrative pivot point strongly suggests at least some of these actors are being folded into that Legion versus Brotherhood conflict, rather than joining the Ghoul's solo storyline in Colorado. Two separate story engines running in parallel would also explain why the show suddenly needs this many new series regulars at once. Fallout has never been shy about splitting its ensemble across multiple locations in a single season. So structurally, this checks out. Let us talk logistics for a second, because the production schedule actually tells a hidden story here. Season 1 began filming in July of 2022 and premiered in April of 2024, roughly a 21-month gap. Season 2 started filming in December of 2024 and premiered in December of 2025, a full year later, and that timeline was already extended because production paused during the Los Angeles wildfires. Season 3's filming reportedly began in Los Angeles in June of 2026. If the show holds to a similar production to premiere gap, that points toward release sometime in mid to late 2027, and possibly not until early 2028 if any delays hit during the shoot. That is a long wait. But it is also worth remembering why Amazon is comfortable letting Fallout take its time. Deadline reported that the show has surpassed 100 million viewers across its first 2 seasons, with both seasons ranking among Prime Video's for most watched seasons ever on the platform. When a show performs at that level, the studio does not rush it. They protect it. I want to zoom out for a moment because there is a bigger story happening here than just one Instagram post. For roughly 2 decades, video game adaptations were treated as a punchline in Hollywood. Rushed scripts, miscast leads, productions that clearly did not understand what made the source material work in the first place. Fallout, along with shows like The Last of Us and movies like the Sonic films, has quietly rewritten that reputation. Part of the reason Fallout specifically works is that it does not just adapt plot points from the games. It adapts a tone. The retro futurism, the dark comedy sitting right next to genuine tragedy, the moral grayness where almost nobody is purely good or purely evil. That tone is baked into every performance, and Walton Goggins in particular has become the face of that balancing act. A character who can deliver a one-liner and then, 30 seconds later, deliver a gut punch about 200 years of grief. That is why an actor of Aaron Paul's caliber wants in. That is why Emily Mortimer, Manny Jacinto, and Thomasin McKenzie signed on for undisclosed roles without knowing exactly what they were getting. When a show builds that kind of reputation among actors and audiences at the same time, the casting announcements stop being routine news and start being events. So here is where things stand. Production is officially underway. The Ghoul is heading into the Rockies chasing a 200-year-old postcard. Aaron Paul is stepping into a Nolan and Joy production at exactly the season number his pattern would predict. And 3 more accomplished actors have joined in secretive roles that likely tie into the coming war for New Vegas. Realistically, we are looking at a wait into 2027 before any of this reaches a screen. But based on everything we have looked at today, this is shaping up to be the most ambitious season Fallout has attempted yet. If you want more breakdowns like this the moment new details drop, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this story is going to keep developing over the next several months. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the wasteland.